In a place called the Lizard, a hero named Akatsuki brought the Dark Princess to his own world. When he was about to go back to his original world with the Dark Princess, the servants of the Shell-Feed Kingdom chased him. Even though he helped the kingdom defeat the Dark Lord, they wanted to bring him back because of his behavior, and he was labeled as the rogue hero. When he sensed Valkyria and others following him, he stopped to confront her. She, along with other kingdom servants, aimed to capture him under Valkyria's command. As the servants approached, he skillfully evaded them and even removed their undergarments. Valkyria became angry, so she chose to battle Akatsuki. When he reached the gate, Princess Listia awaited him, intending to stop him. However, he explained that he had no reason to stay since they had already defeated the Dark Lord. Even after hearing this, Listia couldn't do anything as she walked back to the kingdom. Akatsuki reminded her once more to call him if something bad happened. He seized the opportunity and went through the gate leading back to the other world. Upon reaching his home, he unzipped the bag, revealing the Dark Princess named Miyu. The following day, they both attended Babel, a school designed for those returning from another world. In order to avoid raising suspicions about Miyu being a Dark Princess, Akatsuki decided they would pretend to be siblings. Upon reaching Babel, they underwent various tests because people returning from other worlds often gained different abilities. Babel was set up to guide individuals like Akatsuki properly. At this school, students learned to strengthen and effectively use the abilities they acquired from other worlds. Akatsuki's enrollment in the school quickly reached the student council. They all read the words True Hero and Overlord on his form, making them wonder if Akatsuki might be a threat. However, the student council president decided to welcome him. An instructor then brought Akatsuki and Miyu into a room to test their skills. They were asked to choose weapons, with Miyu selecting a sword and Akatsuki opting to rely on his strength. Miyu was challenged first, and when the instructor attacked her, she threw him away with her power. After retaliating and delivering another attack, the instructor couldn't stand. At that moment, the student council president named Kyoya appeared. Akatsuki immediately thought Kyoya was the strongest student in Babel. Since the instructor couldn't continue the test, Kyoya volunteered to be Akatsuki's opponent. He suddenly attacked Miyu with an ice pillar, but fortunately, she was quickly saved by Akatsuki. Then, he challenged Akatsuki to see if he could break the ice pillar he created. Akatsuki accepted the challenge right away because he was confident in his ability to break it. However, he gave a condition: if he broke it, Kyoya had to fight him. As he was getting ready, he remembered what the Dark Lord had said when entrusting Miyu to him. He punched the ice pillar with great force, causing him to destroy the floor where he was standing. Although the ice pillar did not break, Kyoya was amazed at his strength. Then, he congratulated them, stating that they had completed the entrance examinations. After they left the room, Kyoya touched the ice pillar, and it suddenly crumbled. He immediately thought that Akatsuki purposely did not show his real power. While Lu was still present, indicating his desire for them to fight with all their strength, Kyoya thought that Lu also desired the power of a true hero. The next day marked Akatsuki and Miyu's first day at school. As they entered their classroom, their classmates observed them closely. When Akatsuki took his seat, a female classmate named Izumi approached them, mentioning that they were the talk of the entire school. This was due to Miyu's actions against the instructor, and the fact that the student council president himself endorsed Akatsuki during their enrollment. They also learned that being placed in Section B on the first day was a significant achievement, similar to Izumi and their other classmates who had worked hard to move up from Section E. A few moments later, a classmate named Onizuka arrived and was furious because Akatsuki had taken his seat. He did not expect that Akatsuki would retaliate physically, given Onizuka's pitiful condition. Miyu intervened to halt Akatsuki's actions, and when Izumi appeared, members of the disciplinary committee arrived. They escorted Akatsuki to the student council office, where soon after, other student council members, Haruka, Minami, and Ryohei, entered. Haruka couldn't believe her eyes when she saw Akatsuki sitting in Kyoya's seat. Upon Kyoya's entrance, Akatsuki swiftly approached him, prompting Haruka and her companions to intervene. Despite Akatsuki successfully defending against their attacks, he found himself surrounded. He initially thought Kyoya was responsible for sending them, but it turned out to be Haruka. As the head of the disciplinary committee, she warned him that he was already on their watch list due to his actions on the first day of school. She further cautioned that if he caused more trouble, they would use force to stop him. After leaving the room, he was surprised when a girl, whom he initially thought was still in grade school, approached him. To his surprise, she turned out to be their class president, Kazuha, who had come to pick him up for their next class. He learned that Kazuha had skipped a grade because she was advanced compared to others. However, despite her achievements, Kazuha looked up to the student council members, considering them superior to her. By noon, Onizuka once again bullied Tanaka and took his place in line. He became annoyed when Akatsuki, who had bullied and displaced him before, was also present, and he couldn't do anything about it. Afterwards, Akatsuki returned it to Tanaka. His action led other students to think that Akatsuki had taken Onizuka's place as the bully. Mio discovered that Haruka had summoned Kazuha to reprimand her about Akatsuki's actions. She also assigned Kazuha to submit a report before the class started. Because of this, she became even stricter about the school rules, going as far as removing accessories from Izumi's bag that Mio had given her. Mio intended to give her something, but Kazuha did not accept it. Meanwhile, at the student council office, Haruka remained restless because Kazuha had not yet submitted a report. Kyoya arrived and informed them that he would personally handle all the issues related to Akatsuki. On the flip side, one student messed with the cockatrices that Class B would use for their next class. While Class B was in Stadium 2, they all received a device that would give them a weapon based on their magical powers through imagination. However, since Akatsuki lacked magical powers, he couldn't use it. When they began, those who wanted to fight with a partner went to Stadium 1, and those who wanted to fight alone stayed in Stadium 2. Mio and her classmate decided to go to Stadium 1, while Akatsuki stayed in Stadium 2. He chose Onizuka as his rival in the duel. Initially, Onizuka hesitated, but when Akatsuki mentioned using only a regular sword since he couldn't use the arm device, Onizuka agreed. The cockatrices for the students to fight were released in Stadium 1. Other students had fought the cockatrice repeatedly, so they already knew its abilities. Onizuka believed Akatsuki would join Mio in Stadium 1 to fight the cockatrices. However, at that moment, he felt confident he could defeat Akatsuki because he was only using an ordinary weapon. When their fight began, Onizuka quickly cast magic to attack Akatsuki. He thought he had defeated him, but was shocked to see his attack had no effect. Onizuka tried again, but it still didn't work. When Akatsuki attacked him, Onizuka fell in shock. Akatsuki took his arm device and discovered something. On the other hand, the cockatrice continued its attack in Stadium 1, and the students were helpless due to its extreme strength. Kazuha attempted to attack it, but it didn't work, so Mio and Izumi helped her push it back. They took advantage of this opportunity for the other students to escape the area. When the cockatrice was about to attack again, they retaliated at the same time. It attacked again, so Izumi and Kazuha quickly protected Mio, causing them to turn into stone as well. Mio was fighting the cockatrice alone when Akatsuki suddenly arrived. Akatsuki pushed it back and, using multiple arm devices, released his weapon. When the cockatrices attacked, he easily parried with this weapon. It turned out he took the other students' arm devices until he gathered 7 of them. He thought he had enough to unleash his weapon. Before going to Stadium 1, he used this weapon to channel his energy into the cockatrice. Because of this, he successfully defeated the cockatrice, and the students who had turned into stone returned to normal. Then he left the stadium, and what happened at Stadium 1 immediately reached the student council office. Ryohei was amazed at what Akatsuki did, but Haruka did not agree because Akatsuki only defeated one cockatrice. Akatsuki went to Tanaka because he knew that he was the one who changed the cockatrice's stats. Tanaka also planned to put the blame for this incident on Onizuka because Onizuka was the last person who used the master key of the stadium to clean it. As a punishment for the mess he made the other day, he suddenly rushed and kicked Akatsuki, so Akatsuki took out his weapon. But Tanaka continued to attack him, and because of the speed of his attacks, Akatsuki could not get away from him. He endured this until his weapon disappeared, and he fell to the ground. But when Tanaka approached him, Akatsuki immediately took out his weapon to attack Tanaka. Since he just pretended to be lost, Tanaka decided to attack the building because it turned out that he had the intention to destroy Babel. He was thinking that they would only be used as instruments of battle, sent to war. Even though he knew that many innocent students would be affected by what he intended to do, he still did not care about it. But before he could start what he intended to do, Kyoya suddenly imprisoned him in ice. Akatsuki was surprised that Kyoya came there, so he told Akatsuki that they had the same reason why they came to this room. Although Kyoya did not want to interfere in the fight between Akatsuki and Tanaka, he also would not let Tanaka cause damage to Babel. Akatsuki also wanted to fight Kyoya, but he said that he would prioritize the well-being of Mio and her friends. When he and Mio met at the stadium, she suddenly became dizzy and lost consciousness. In the afternoon after school, Akatsuki visited Mio in the infirmary. When Akatsuki touched her shoulder, he found out that she had an injury on it. Using his vivification technique, he activated and stabilized Mio's internal energy to speed up her body's ability to heal. At that moment, Mio remembered her father, so Akatsuki encouraged her to reveal her true feelings and pour out her anger on him as the culprit in her father's death. One day, while they were having breakfast, Akatsuki saw on the news that a member of the cocoon had arrived in the country. So he immediately stood up. From Akatsuki's reaction, Mio got worried about him, so she asked Izumi about the cocoon. Kazuo explained that this was the children of crossover other nations, and each of its members was stronger than the entire army of the country they represented. Its members had an unofficial meeting to talk about the arrival of the true hero, Akatsuki. It turned out that one of the members of the cocoon was Kyoya, and he told the others that he had seen some of Akatsuki's abilities but not its full power yet. He admitted that he was still observing whether he should be invited to join them or not. While Akatsuki was on the rooftop, he remembered what he saw in the news that morning. After a while, another student came there. When he approached Akatsuki, the guy told him that it was his first time meeting him. He was about to shake hands to introduce himself, but he suddenly punched Akatsuki, which was blocked too. The two fought and exchanged attacks until Akatsuki was able to knock him down. Akatsuki was about to follow with another attack, so the guy immediately surrendered after accepting his defeat. Akatsuki helped him stand, and there were some things that this guy mentioned which he did not understand. Then he also invited Akatsuki to meet him on Monday, and he introduced himself as Monoharu from Class A. By Monday, it was the first day of the Cocoon Summit meeting, which would be held at the Metro Hotel, and the security was very tight. Oya was also present as a representative of Japan at Babel, and it was crucial for him to ensure the order of the summit meeting. It turned out that there were terrorists he fought in the restroom because those people wanted to protest in the summit meeting. At that moment, an exam was being conducted in Babel for Japanese history. While others were diligently working on the exam, the instructor noticed that Akatsuki was just sleeping. He looked at Akatsuki's test paper and was surprised that all his answers were correct. After the class, Monoharu took Akatsuki to the place he mentioned. When they arrived, Akatsuki was surprised to see the racetrack. Then they went to the person Monoharu wanted to introduce to him, and it turned out to be Professor Kabuta. Monoharu wanted Akatsuki to test the Sleipnir as well, but Kabuta refused because Akatsuki might get hurt like what happened to Muraharu. Akatsuki approached the Sleipnir, and when he removed its cover, it released a very strong electricity, causing him to be thrown away. It was a spirit-powered motorbike created for war, and Onohara said that it seemed to choose only the right people to ride it. Kubota added that what happened was just a warning to Akatsuki, and if he tried to hold onto it again, it would definitely do worse to him. Kabuta also mentioned that only Akatsuki's father had the ability to handle it. After Akatsuki heard this, he did not expect that Kabuta knew his father's name. As soon as he realized that Sleipnir would not accept a lower level than his father, he became interested in trying it to show that he was stronger than his father. Haruka went out to check the cause of the complaints from the nearby buildings and was surprised to see Akatsuki riding the Sleipnir. When Akatsuki finished trying it, Haruka immediately approached him to take him to the Student Services office. Kabuta came to them and told Haruka that he was the one to blame and not Akatsuki. Then he also told Akatsuki that the Sleipnir was his already, and he could take it home. So, Haruka also said that she would bring the Sleipnir as evidence, but when she touched it, her clothes were torn off. Suddenly, somebody called her for another operation, so Akatsuki immediately gave his uniform to cover her. She promised to return the uniform immediately and then quickly left. Haruka's group was heading to the terrorists known as Crimson Twilight because they had a hostage situation in a building. The terrorists aimed to disrupt the summit meeting and demanded the release of their captured colleagues, along with Minami and Ryoya, who were detained by Kyoya that morning. To neutralize the rooftop enemies, they put them to sleep. Upon entering the room where the hostages were held, Minami created a barrier to protect them, and they swiftly attacked the enemies. Although they defeated most of them, one enemy survived and took a child hostage. As negotiations continued, they reached the rooftop. The enemies planned to escape using Babel's helicopter. When a helicopter landed, Akatsuki suddenly appeared and attacked the enemy holding the child. Haruka's group took this opportunity to attack two other enemies. The hostages were safely rescued. An imposter pretending to be a civilian attempted to blow up the building, but Monohara intervened and stopped the enemy, knowing his destructive intentions. Meanwhile, in the other world, a meeting took place in the Alaclasta Empire. Princess Listy attended along with Emperor Voke of Alaclasta and Lord Barium, the Emperor of Discha. Barium mentioned that he received information about the Dark Princess's whereabouts and planned to send his men to find her. Listy was concerned that disturbing the Dark Clan might cause problems, but Barium emphasized the threat posed by the Dark Princess, and they couldn't predict when the Dark Clan would attack again. Barium explained that the Dark Princess was not from a lizard but from another world. The attendees found this hard to believe, as they knew only those from the other world could pass through the gate. Barium revealed that the Dark Princess crossed the gate when a rogue hero named Akatsuki brought her. Barium brought Listy to Discha to introduce her to Phil, the one chosen for the mission to find and bring Mio back to a lizard. Before Phil left, Zax wanted to test his skills, and Phil agreed. He demonstrated his abilities on Discha's soldiers, but Zax wasn't satisfied. Phil was prepared to fight him, but Barium intervened, and Phil continued his journey to the other world. Meanwhile, in Babel, all students were getting ready for the ranking match exam. Monohara warned Akatsuki that many students wanted to defeat him to become popular in Babel. However, Akatsuki got more excited, thinking that if he defeated everyone, he would be promoted to Class A. He also learned that he could face the student council in the exam, but they were scheduled for the second day. The student council members arrived, and Akatsuki couldn't wait to face Kyoya. However, Kyoya mentioned that he couldn't participate because of his cocoon duties at the summit meeting. Akatsuki hoped Kyoya could catch up later if the summit meeting finished early. After the student council left, the rules for the ranking match were explained. Teams of 4 members would participate, and their armed devices had power limits. Special clothes were provided for the exam due to these power limits. The ranking match exam then began. They faced an attack from another group, but they easily defeated the enemy. Akatsuki sensed another group hiding underground, so he attacked them too. Shortly afterward, more groups emerged to attack, but Akatsuki quickly defeated them all with a single attack. Those monitoring the exam couldn't believe one group had knocked out 14 others in just 1 hour. Once they identified the group members, an instructor wasn't surprised, knowing Akatsuki's strength. He mentioned that Akatsuki could even keep up with the student council members, a point Haruka disagreed with. However, Ryohei and Minami acknowledged Akatsuki's strength. At night, while Akatsuki's group rested, they sensed a break in the wind barrier they had set up. It turned out to be Haruka's group, deciding to participate in the exam despite their scheduled turn the next day. Haruka challenged Akatsuki to a fight, and although Mio was against him fighting alone, Akatsuki was confident in his strength. When they moved away, Ryohei created a barrier for privacy. As Akatsuki took out his weapon, Haruka informed Ryo and Minami that she would face Akatsuki alone. She attacked suddenly, marking the start of their fight. Akatsuki broke Haruka's barrier, causing her to fall. He then aimed his weapon at her, but Minami and Ryo unexpectedly attacked Akatsuki, finding that their powers had no effect on him. Haruka's group enchanted their weapons with magic, but Akatsuki somehow made their magic disappear. When Akatsuki attacked, someone blocked it, and it turned out to be Manaharu. He needed to divert their attention due to an emergency, and he knew that Haruka was aware of it too. Then they witnessed an explosion near Mio's location. Because of this, Akatsuki rushed quickly to reach her. A few minutes earlier, while Lee was talking to the other girls, Phil appeared to them. When Mio saw his badge, she immediately recognized him as a Aesthetica paladin. By the time Akatsuki arrived, the 3 girls were no longer in the area. Akatsuki sensed some energy nearby, and when he punched a tree, they found Azumi and Kazuha. When Kazuha saw them, she mentioned that Mio ran away to lead the man who attacked them. She added that the man was also from the world they came from, and Mio referred to him as a Aesthetica paladin. After Akatsuki stabilized the internal energy of Azumi and Kazuha, he asked Haruka to quickly take them to the ICU. Then, he instructed Minami and Ryohei to evacuate the other students to their base camp because Akatsuki intended to confront the enemy alone, following Mio. Haruka was concerned about his safety, but Akatsuki reassured them of his strength. Meanwhile, Phil continued chasing Mio, and Onizuka suddenly intercepted him. Onizuka used the same technique he employed on Akatsuki, but it had no effect on Philosophy. Phil counterattacked, easily defeating Onizuka, who tried using multiple clones in his attack. When Onizuka regained consciousness, he found Akatsuki beside him, adjusting the flow of internal energy in his body. Akatsuki, aware that Manaharu had been following him, instructed him to take Onizuka to the ICU. Akatsuki then continued to pursue Mio. As Phil caught up with Mio, he introduced himself and revealed his mission to bring her back to a lizard as the new hero. Mio attacked him, but Phil easily blocked and retaliated with a punch to her stomach. Phil mentioned their plan to publicly execute Mio for the sake of peace in the lizard. Mio knew they wanted to capture her alive to draw out the Dark Clan. Faced with this, Mio contemplated suicide, but Phil warned that if she did, he would harm her friends. Unable to act, she cried, but Akatsuki arrived, angered by Phil's actions. Akatsuki attacked, prompting Phil to retreat. As they clashed, Akatsuki questioned who helped Phil locate Mio. Phil denied assistance, claiming the opportunity was in his favor, but in truth, he had received information from the school staff. He mentioned that initially, they were reluctant to share information, but when he attacked one of them, they revealed details about Mio. Mio released a powerful aura, throwing Akatsuki away. They exchanged attacks, and Akatsuki used his linked energy manipulation, making Phil retreat. Akatsuki explained that he could create an anti-magic barrier using his linked energy manipulation. Akatsuki formed an energy bomb and threw it at Philosophy. Although Phil tried to block it with the anti-magic barrier, the bomb passed through. Phil then revealed his actions at the grave of the former hero, Leon, which upset Listy. Despite their knowledge of his deeds, if Phil could kill Akatsuki and return Mio to a lizard, he believed he would be recognized as a hero. After hearing this, Akatsuki punched Philosophy. Phil retaliated by taking Mio hostage, forcing Akatsuki to let go of his sword. Phil ordered Akatsuki to remove the arm device, causing the sword to disappear. Akatsuki left suddenly, realizing Phil was just jealous of him. When Phil attacked, Akatsuki easily blocked and defeated him. Mio ran away, and Akatsuki followed her to a waterfall. There, Mio expressed her desire to end her life to avoid affecting others. She jumped, but Akatsuki saved her. He scolded her and shared the dream of the Dark Lord, his father, to give her a peaceful life. Akatsuki couldn't accept her giving up, and his words restored her courage. As they were about to return to base camp, Phil appeared. He couldn't believe Akatsuki still stood, despite the spreading poison in his body. Akatsuki, in turn, was surprised Phil survived his attack. Phil revealed his true power, explaining how he endured the attack. Suddenly, the others heard a noise and spotted a dragon in the distance. It turned out that Phil had transformed into a Zahak, and Akatsuki couldn't believe he had united with the lizard dragon. Knowing Akatsuki hadn't fully recovered from the poison, Mio decided to act as bait until he did. Akatsuki didn't want to agree, but his weakness prevented him from stopping Mio's plan. She attacked Phil, luring the enemy away from Akatsuki. The news about the dragon also reached Kabuta, and upon learning that Akatsuki was facing the enemy, he considered sending the slate near. Kazuha, having recovered, decided to help Mio. Upon encountering Akatsuki on the way, she learned about the situation. Moments later, Izumi joined them after recovering from her injuries. In this situation, they decided to go together to follow Mio and give Akatsuki ample time to recover. Kazuha asked how long Akatsuki needed to recover. Because they were willing to do everything to face the enemy, Mio reached the urban training district. While fighting Phil, she was knocked down, but Haruka arrived to rescue her. Haruka initially thought Akatsuki had abandoned Mio, but she explained his true condition, clarifying that he needed time to recover. Minami also joined the fight to help against the enemy. Despite their combined efforts, their weapons proved ineffective against the dragon. When Izumi and Kazuha arrived, Izumi's attack initially seemed to have no effect, but it later caused a series of explosions. Kazuha mentioned they only needed 30 more minutes for Akatsuki to heal completely. As they continued to fight Phil, Izumi assisted Haruka. Minami and Kazuha created a golem to knock Phil down, followed by Ryohei's attack. Mio decided to use a technique she learned from her father, but Phil set a trap. After an explosion, Izumi and Kazuha were lying down. Although Mio intended to attack again, Phil made her feel guilty for causing harm to her friends. Consequently, Mio chose to return to a lizard. Phil took her, but as they were about to leave, Akatsuki, riding the slate near, intervened and freed Mio from the enemy. Akatsuki instructed Mio to evacuate the others, planning to face Phil alone. When Phil attacked, Akatsuki easily blocked it. However, his sword was affected by Zahak's poison, prompting him to let it go and punch Philosophy. He followed up with repeated attacks using his sword, but when he stopped, Phil retaliated. The enemy launched consecutive attacks, and as Phil approached, Akatsuki used his sword to knock him down. Phil felt the effects of Akatsuki's attacks due to the energy that had entered his body. Suddenly, an explosion occurred, but Akatsuki managed to protect Mio and the others. Though his sword was destroyed, and one arm device damaged, Akatsuki overcame these obstacles to defeat Philosophy. Mio decided to give him her arm device, and even Haruka, who had initially seemed opposed, offered her arm device as well. As Phil approached, he was immediately attacked by Akatsuki. Phil retaliated quickly, but Akatsuki managed to stab him with his new weapon. When Phil attacked again, Akatsuki attempted to block it, but Phil's attack landed. As Phil prepared for another assault, Akatsuki swiftly put on another arm device, allowing him to create a new weapon. With this weapon, he overcame Phil's attack, splitting it apart and causing it to explode. Upon seeing Akatsuki, Mio rushed to him. Members of the cocoon observed the fight, some expressing amazement at Akatsuki's ability to defeat a higher life form. They also discussed their plans, including Project Y, with the Crimson Twilight being part of the conversation. The leader of the Crimson Twilight mentioned their intention to eliminate all members except the founder, as he would handle it. During their meeting, Michael asked Kyoya why he didn't fight the dragon directly due to its strength, potentially posing a threat to Babel. Kyoya emphasized that the welfare of Project Y should always be the priority, justifying any sacrifices. At this moment, Kyoya inquired if Michael's sibling was among those sacrifices. Meanwhile, as Akatsuki contemplated his plan to confront Kyoya, Matahara informed him that Haruka was looking for him. Matahara also shared the results of the ranking match examination, revealing that they had successfully entered Class A. Akatsuki mentioned the chain he noticed on Phil, speculating that Matahara was responsible for immobilizing him. Matahara didn't anticipate that Akatsuki would notice that. After Matahara left, their captain summoned him, and Matahara reported Akatsuki's actions with the dragon. However, despite that, Akatsuki wasn't allowed to join their group, and Matahara was tasked with continuing to monitor him. When Listy discovered that Phil had made a deal with Sahak, she immediately confronted Barium. Barum justified his decision, stating that it was the right move because their opponent was the daughter of the former Dark Lord. Returning with the Dark Princess would solidify Phil's image as a hero. Zex came with news about the Black Mountain, where the Dark Beasts began fighting. Experts believed it was due to Zahak's master, who had allegedly died. Darum found this hard to believe, but Zex announced another shocking revelation, the extermination of the combined army of Shield Feed and Distias stationed at the border. According to information, this act was attributed to the Dark Clan, leaving Listy in shock. Shield Feed prepared for a potential attack from the Dark Clan, and Listy felt the need for Akatsuki. One day, they invited Izumi and Kazuha to their house, where Mio disclosed everything about her and the events during the ranking match examination. The two immediately understood Mio's situation. Akatsuki mentioned his plan to return to a lizard, sensing something was amiss there. Upon hearing this, Mio decided to go with him, and even Izumi and Kazuha expressed their desire to join. Meanwhile, Haruka was already outside the house, feeling a bit embarrassed about Akatsuki. Suddenly, Matahara arrived, claiming that Professor Kabura assigned him to give something to Akatsuki. Seeing light from the house, they suspected a dimensional shift and quickly entered. They discovered that Akatsuki and others were preparing to go to a lizard. When the two entered, Mataharu immediately chained Akatsuki, intending to go with them. Haruka decided to join as well. This concludes the last episode of Aesthetica of a Rogue Hero. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thank you for watching.